I wasn't expecting company, but if you stay out of the shrubs and flower beds, you can stay.
Give them a wave, Pops, now that you've invited them in. We're two old guys who enjoy playing sandbox and survival games together. I'm Uncle Craig. Go ahead and sit down. Let's visit for a while.
Gear in Star Wars The Old Republic is pretty ingenious. I have really come to appreciate how they have set this all up. But in the beginning, when you're starting out with a new character, and even later in the game, for some people like myself, it's still a bit confusing how the gear ratings work and how that aligns with your item rating and all kinds of things like that. When you get to the end game, level 80, it's helpful to know how this all works so that you can more wisely put the pieces together to get the maximum benefit from your armor. Now, as always, my videos are really geared toward old guys, so it should be very easy for other people to understand. So let's kind of go through this. I'm going to show two different characters. One is this character here, who is one of my lower level characters, 62. She's getting up there a ways. Just to kind of show what the armor looks like, what's in there, and then later on we'll look at Uncle Craig and look at what he's got there. So let's go right into her character sheet. Press C here. You'll notice they do a great job. You got weapons, armor, and accessories. We're going to go through each one of those. Weapons should be pretty simple. It's either single or dual wield weapons, and for some characters like this one, the second weapon really is a focus, or there's a couple other things you can put in there that helps with, like, for instance, defense or force power, but it's not really a weapon you use, but it goes in the weapon hand. Now let's look at this. First of all, we'll kind of go into detail what you see when you're looking at a piece of gear, and then we'll go through the list of items in the gear. You can see that at the beginning here it shows you whether it's bound or bound to this character, bound to your legacy, or bind on use, on equip I think is what they call it. Gives you a little more detail at the top there too. Then you have key stats, which usually is the damage that it causes, and then total stats. Now here's where it gets interesting. The total stats that you have here is based on modifications, if you will, that are built into the item. When everything is blue there, these are things that are built into the gear piece, and you can't change it. The item rating up at the top is based on what those stats are. So that's how it gets a rating 178, is the combination of those stats that are below. Item modifications, most of the time it's a color crystal or sometimes a tuning that you can put in there. And then at the bottom, sometimes an item will require a certain level of player. So that's where your character level comes into play when it comes to what types of gear items you can be using. So that's what all those stats are about at a high level. In the armor, you of course have your headgear and the pieces of gear that you have here. But you'll notice here on the in most of them, let's go to the headgear. You have the ability to change a lot of different things in there. Or, excuse me, you can't change these things, but the gear will have these different stats built into them. Here you have a bracer, and usually there's fewer stats there, and you'll find out later why that is. And so each one of these pieces of gear has different stats available. The two that have the least modifications is the belt and the arm gear, the wrist gear, and again you'll see why later. Accessories are kind of interesting. On the left you have accessories that you only have one of. You have one earpiece, and later on, once you achieve higher levels, you'll have one what they call tactical. The other four are in pairs. You get a pair of implants and a pair of relics you can use. Again, they have stats in them, and those can be modified to an extent. Now, early in gameplay, you'll watch some videos that say, make sure you have a certain amount of accuracy and a certain amount of critical rating and alacrity, things like that. Early, that's really referring to level 80. Before that, it's really not going to make that much of a difference. And for all intents and purposes, if you get a piece of gear that has a green up arrow, just up just use it. Just replace what you have. On some instances, you'll want to look kind of at the details. If you got two equivalent pieces and you want to figure out which one to use, favor those stats that you're looking to improve. But you're never going to achieve the stats they talk about in those videos until you get to level 80. Also keep in mind, most of the armor that you're using here early on, you're going to sell it or throw it away. However, if you are one of those people that is into the fashion and some of the role play type stuff, definitely save off some of the things you like the most in your outfits. That's, of course, a whole another video, how to set up the outfits, but at least save them as outfits before you sell them or destroy them, or put them in storage somewhere if you do want to keep them and use them with other characters, for instance. But most of it's throwaway armor. You're going to get it on drops. It's going to constantly upgrade as you go from planet to planet. But once you hit 80, none of that stuff is going to be useful to you at all. That's your character pre-80. Now, this is Uncle Craig, my namesake. He's a bit more handsome than I am. Yeah, a lot more hair. Let's look at his character sheet, at his gear. So if you notice, all this stuff is brown bordered. Now, if you do end up picking up things from the cartel, or you get it as part of your galactic rewards or your login rewards, and it's got the brown or red border, and it has a rating of 8, you might think, well, that's kind of useless. But hang on to all of the armor that's like that. Now I'll show you why. Remember, previously I said the armor you have has built-in stats. You can't do anything with them. They're just part of the gear item itself. Now, a little different with this brown gear. If you notice with my blaster, either the right or the left there, you'll see the total stats in blue, and then below you see the item modifications, barrel mod, and enhancement. Now, those were white because I could put in a modification. You can use the modification station to do that. They give you an early mission to know how to go about doing that. Though it's not real useful what they give you, it shows you how to go about doing that. Now, those modifications use items that you can craft, but then at the end game, you're actually going to get the very best modifications from hide and seek. Like I said before, the rating I have on my armor, brown or red armor, is 336. It didn't come that way, so just be aware. It's not like I found armor that was 336. It was 8. And what I did is I took the modifications, a barrel, a module, and an enhancement from hide and seek, and I put it into that rating 8 armor, and it resulted in a rating 336 for each of my blasters. You can see I also put a tuning in. I put in the new, or the Rakghoul, the crystal you can get from the Rakghoul event, and so I got the green crystal. And then I can also put in, which I haven't done yet, I can put in an augmentation. I think you only get those from crafting, if I remember correctly. And so of course they only go up to a certain level, but you could craft in to augment your item with a little more critical rating, a little more accuracy, things like that. That's how you end up constructing your level 80 armor to be as good as you want it to be. Now, a couple things to note. I've mentioned hide and seek. We'll go through a video and talk through the way I have decided is probably the best way to get through getting those best modules from them, the cheapest way you can and the quickest way you can. It's not necessarily the best. It's not the way everybody would advocate for, but it's the way that I've figured to teach people how to do to avoid the cost that I put in. I spent so much money that ended up just going down the toilet that in time that if I had it to do over again, I would have done it a lot differently. Now that I've accomplished this with one character, I believe I don't have to do that again. I can just buy and pass on to those other characters the modules they need, the modifications that they need, and then I can construct the armor for the other characters. So it's just that first time that you go through it that is painful, and I try to reduce that pain as much as I can. But that's how you're going to get these top items modified to be what rating they are. 336 right now. I think that's the most you can do just with the hide and seek modifications. Down below, the accessories is a little different. Let's go down to the tactical first. Now, you hear people talk about the tactical in the videos. You notice it requires level 75. So at 75, you can go find the tactical guy and buy that tactical. You notice it doesn't have a rating, so you can't improve the quality of it. It just is what it is. So I say get that as soon as you can at level 75. Put that in here, and now you've got that taken care of. If, like me, you have a loadout, and so you switch between damage dealing and healing, you'll notice up here I have a different tactical. And so I'll have this one that I'm pointing at for when I'm healing, and I have this one over here for when I am damage dealing. Okay, so just do that, get it in, leave it, you're done. Okay, I don't remember the cost of it, but make that one of the first things you get is that the tactical. The next is what they call legendaries, but really it's implants. They're legendary level implants. These you get from the little droid that's next to the Twi'lek, that's in the same room as the Conquest armor dealers and the Flashpoint armor dealers. Now you notice they do have a rating, and so once you buy your first ones, you may go ahead and upgrade it over time. And so it's going to cost a little bit as you go up those levels, but you just work through that. So just be aware, you're going to get these, but you're going to be upgrading them over time. And that's usually my secondary focus. I get these as soon as I can, and I upgrade them as soon as I can and get them done. Once they're done, they're done. Okay. When it comes to hide and seek, and you'll see another video on this, what I do is I tell folks get one piece. I usually tell them just grab a helmet. Okay, get one piece of Conquest armor, and then go to the upgrade person and use all the money that you have available at that time, all the currency available, and just upgrade that helmet until it's totally maxed out. Once you get hide and seek opened up with the 336, you take some 336 prototype gear, break it down, give it to Hyde. Zeke will now give you his highest level modifications for sale, and that's what you're looking to achieve. Once you achieve that, you're going to throw all your Conquest armor away or deconstruct it so that you can keep the components, but it's gone. You're not going to be using it. So that's why I'd say don't try to upgrade all of your Conquest armor. Just get to where you get the modifications from Zeke. Then you'll go and put those modifications, you'll buy them and put them in your level 8 gear. By this time you should have identified a set of gear that you would like to hang on to and modify that gear, and it will get up to level 336. Don't worry about the appearance either. You'll notice I'm wearing Proficient Hitman's armor, but what you're seeing in here is the Rogue, what is it called? I think it's the Rogue. Yeah, I don't remember. Here it is. The Rogue Agent armor. But the armor that I have is Proficient Hitman, which, if you're interested, it looks like this. So that's the actual gear. This is the way it's going to appear to everybody because I have it in the outfitter. So don't worry too much about the level, the rating 8 gear that you end up using at the end. Don't worry about it looking real cool. You can even have a mix mash of different pieces in there from different outfits, and it wouldn't matter. Just pick one of each and load it up with Zeke's stuff, and you're all set. So that's to explain how the gear ratings work, putting them together, what they look like, why they look like that. Relics are the same thing, but you're not going to have the legendary ones. These are just whatever you get from the Conquest and Flashpoint gear vendors, and just upgrade it with that process until you get these upgraded. I usually choose the ones that have the bonus in the green text there, the bonus that best applies to my build. And so those are the ones I look to put in there and upgrade to 336 again. So I've got one more step on that other relic. And then your earpiece, the same thing. Just upgrade the one that you can get from there to the most you can. Later on, when you're ready to do augments, you can augment absolutely everything that's here, I think, except for the tactical. Everything here is upgradable with augments. I think there's 12 items. Let's see, there's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I guess. 14 items you can add an augment to and upgrade some ratings even more. So hopefully this is helpful. Have fun out there. I hope to see you on the servers. We're on StarForge, so look up the 2 old guys.
Like, subscriber, get off my lawn.